And I now call on Rhoda Grant. Up to 3 minutes, please.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. This SSI will unfairly disadvantage small herd farmers and crofters, especially those farming on islands and poorer land. It imposes a calving interval conditionality of 410 days on support from the Suckler Beef Support Scheme. Under the new policy, a calf must either be the first offspring of a cow or born no later than 410 days since his mother has given birth the last time. Over time, that interval will decrease. The Scottish Crofting Federation tell us that many crofters cannot control this interval. They quote one of their island members who recently had organised to take delivery of a bull under the Scottish Government scheme on 15th August. Due to weather, this was delayed to 4th September. Ferries can be cancelled and there are restrictions on the weather conditions when animals can travel for welfare reasons. Ferry cancellations also need to be rebooked and a crofter has no control over that. In this case, the crofter was already 21 days behind schedule when receiving the bull, and because of this could be up to 50 days before all cows were pregnant. This type of delay can also have knock-on impacts on other small herds waiting to lease the same bull. It seems wrong that delays in the Scottish Government providing a lease bull could cost a small farmer or crofter dearly. I'll take the introduction.
Tim Eagle.
I agree with actually what Rhoda Grant is saying, and I thank you for bringing this up, because it would be fair to say, I think, and I don't know if you agree with me, that it's not just one or two groups in the industry that are worried about this, but actually quite a lot, and it will have a significant impact. Do you agree with me that the report published in 2020, the Suckler Beef Climate Report, is probably a better way of delivering for the Scottish beef industry?
Rhoda Grant.
Yes, I agree. There has to be a better way than this, because others have asked for a derogation for small herds as well, and that's not been provided for in this instrument. This derogation is not only important for the sustainability of farming on poorer land and islands financially, it's also really important for nature, because previous schemes that restricted cattle from the land showed that this was damaging to nature, and we've now learnt from these experiences how important cattle are to biodiversity and to foster healthy environments. Sadly, a policy designed to cut greenhouse gas emissions could be counterproductive and have an impact on the natural environment. Due to proportionality, it could only take one missed payment to make a small farmer or crofter's business uneconomical, and for them to give up rearing cattle altogether. And once cattle are lost from the hills and islands, it's really difficult to return them due to the cost of restocking. Therefore, if we get this wrong, there is no way back. Therefore, I would ask if the Minister would withdraw this instrument and resubmit it with a derogation for small herds.
Thank you. And I call on Jim Fairlie to respond. Up to 3 minutes, Minister.
Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. Presiding Officer, this policy intervention demonstrates that this Government and the industry have engaged and collaborated to identify workable solutions to the challenges that we face. This regulation will demonstrate to consumers that the sector is taking its responsibilities seriously and is actively looking to reduce its carbon emissions by adopting interventions under cross-compliance to protect peatlands and wetlands, and also to improve the efficiency of the national suckler herd. The policy intervention demonstrates that this Government is actively looking at how we achieve our climate ambitions, but we match those ambitions of our livestock sector by supporting the suckler producers with direct coupled support to ensure that we maintain and improve our critical mass of homebred beef. Yes, I'll take the intervention.
Rachel Hamilton.
Jim Fairlie for taking the intervention. I totally agree with Rhoda Grant's comments, not just about crofters, about small producers, for example, in the borders who've been in touch with me. The suckler herd is contracting, and we need to protect that herd so that we have food security for the future. But more importantly, do you not think this is too much about net zero and not enough about welfare and the welfare of farmers?
Always through the chair, please. Minister.
I'll cover the points that Rachel Hamilton has come to, but I'm going to continue with what I was saying. Our approach to how we're going to protect suckler beef producers is in stark contrast to the UK Government, who are fast-tracking to end meaningful direct support to English farmers and livestock producers who have no coupled support. Other states are looking at methane and carbon taxes to reduce emissions, and that is the context in which this regulation is being brought about. I'll take the intervention from Ariane Burgess.
Ariane Burgess.
I thank the Minister for giving way. Can the Minister reassure me that the force majeure measures in this SSI can be activated by crofters and small producers in extenuating circumstances, and that the government will clearly communicate in writing how they can activate that measure?
Ariane Burgess is she's stealing my thunder. If you give me a couple of seconds, I'll come to that in my speech. In contrast, we are working in partnership with our farmers and our crofters to support reductions in emissions, and these measures are the first step in that journey. Presiding Officer, I've heard and I have a great deal of sympathy with the position that Rhoda Grant has put to me, that smaller producers or crofters may be more impacted than the bigger producers. But let me assure all members, but particularly those representing crofting communities, that we will ensure that robust force majeure measures are in place, recognising the unique challenges that crofters face. The Government will review any impacts, and if issues emerge, we will work with officials and the industry representatives to build in the changes to the SSBSS to underpin support of cows on crofts and in small herds. Yes, I'll take your intervention.
Finlay Carson.
Giving way. A report by QMS highlights that the continuation of existing trends will result in a 5.6% reduction in the number of Scottish-born animals. That's 20,500 over the next 6 years. A growing UK population says, and a downward trend in beef production means that the UK could require an additional 74% increase in net imports. Presiding Officer, a smaller beef sector would have a significant impact on the rural economy, with annual output falling by 72 million, with the number of jobs sustained in a rural area falling by over 1,000. The question to the Minister is, did the Minister consider the impact of the introduction of this conditionality on the size of the Scottish beef herd and the resulting impact on the rural economy?
In conclusion, Minister.
Presiding Officer, this policy has actually shown. This policy has been in place for a number of years, but this policy has shown to actually slow down the decline in suckler cow numbers, and I am actively looking at ways that not only would stabilise that, but would reverse it, because I care deeply about the future of our farming and crofting communities. And these changes strike the right balance between continuing support of the industry and making progress to reduce the emissions. I'll take Liam MacArthur.
Liam MacArthur.
I thank the Minister for taking an intervention. I think the point in relation to herd size is critical, not just at a national level, but in areas like Orkney, where we've seen that reduction in numbers and the knock-on consequences that could have up and down the supply chain. So, irrespective of the outcome of the vote this evening, will he agree to meet with the number of members here this evening that have an interest in this to identify ways in which that herd size number can be reversed, and we see an upward trend in the numbers that we desperately need to see?
Minister must conclude at this point.
I will always be more than open to having any discussions, but in terms of the size of the herd, I'm not going to get into that. We're going to get into too much detail. I'm going to move on. Presiding Officer, as a government, we would be doing a disservice to the livestock sector if we pretend that doing nothing was an option, because it is not. If we do not act now, then further down the line, buyers, processors and retailers are increasingly going to make demands to move to lower carbon systems. And as the former NFUS President Nigel Miller noted recently, now is the time for Scottish farmers to catch up and lead on reducing methane emissions. Presiding Officer, this regulation must be passed tonight to ensure that we can continue to support our suckler beef producers from 2025 onwards and help our farmers and crofters to meet the challenges of the future. Thank you.